Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Healing in Hindsight. We're rocking with episode 5, and with today's guest, I'm really excited to have her on. Her name is Lexie, the diabetic, or better known for the Sugarless Society. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Lexie and really listening to her story. And the reason why I'm really excited about this is my first guest who is a type 1 diabetic. If you're not familiar, type 1 is insulin deficient, type 2 is insulin resistant. But there are a lot of common things that, type 1 and type 2 diabetics share, and there are some differences. So I really appreciated her time and her story, especially because she had to really learn how to manage her diabetes at such a young age. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode, but I won't do a super long intro on this. I really think you're just going to get a lot out of it. Be sure that you follow her and make sure you thank her too, because she is the one who brought it to my attention that Iran has no insulin, y'all. Like, none. So without further ado, let's get to it. You're listening to Healing in Hindsight, your no BS source for thriving with diabetes. What's up, guys? I'm Taylor Danielle, and it's my goal to help millennial diabetics like myself live an amazing life without your diagnosis getting in the way. I get it. I was diagnosed back in 2015 with type 2 diabetes, and it was really hard to find people around my age to understand how to travel, socialize, or even have meaningful relationships. But I feel like with a focus on mindset, perspective, and nutrition, together we can take back our health and our lives. Consider this the red table talk, but for diabetics. Minus the entanglements, though. So let's do it. So hi, Lexie. How
Hello.
are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful Saturday. The weather is nice. So I will not complain. It's Halloween here. I know by the time people listen to this, it won't be, but still, I think it's important to recognize that it is a Saturday, Halloween, and a full moon. Like, it's real today. It's a real deal Saturday.
Weather, so that must mean something.
Something is amiss. Something is amiss. Well, I really appreciate your time and hopping onto the show and getting to learn more about you and everything that you're building, especially everything that you're doing for the diabetic community. So just, to kind of kick us off, I'd like for you to share with everyone, like, who you are and what do you do and kind of what your passions are.
Okay, so hi everybody. I am Lexie, the diabetic on Instagram. I am basically just living my life with diabetes. If I were to explain myself as a person, I would literally just use my roles of a wife, a daughter, and an entrepreneur. And I love to not care for people and take care of people, but like kind of care for people and take care of people. I have a very nurturing spirit. So, and I'm also a dog mom. Love my baby. So yeah, that's Lexie. What was the second question?
Like, what are your passions?
Oh, my passions. Okay.
Stuff you're into.
So I recently got into cycling, indoor cycling. During COVID, obviously you can't go to the gym anymore. So I got a stationary bike. And like, when I tell you, I really feel like I'm in class with other people with the Peloton app, if you've ever heard of it.
Oh, yeah. One of my good friends, she loves her Peloton bike. Like, loves it.
It is amazing. Well, I don't have the Peloton brand bike, but I have
you working what you work with.
Yes, so I pay $12 a month and I get basically like the live classes with everybody. So it's really cool. Anyway,
awesome.
Yeah, so cycling is one of my passions. Photography, videography, I've always loved those things. And I recently got into painting. It's crazy how you start discovering like things that you didn't really know that you loved until you're like locked down and stuck at home and you have to find something to do.
Yeah.
And I just, I sip and paint. I like to sip and paint.
Yeah, they actually have those. Like, that's literally what it's called. And I'm like, or painting with a twist. They have different names, but I've seen sip and paint, and those are definitely fun. We did a team builder one time when I was out in California for a work trip. But yeah, painting and art has definitely been a huge form of therapy for me growing up. My mom painted, so I was always drawing, always, doing something.
Mhm.
I managed to not do anything on the walls, thankfully. I think my parents scared me enough to not draw on the walls, but I definitely love painting and all that. And I'm actually trying to get more into photography and videography. Like, I got my camera, I bought my camera off my sister because she wasn't using it. So I'm like, cool, well, let me use it so I can like
Yeah.
play around with it. So I'm gonna have to hit you up for some tips. I stayed up till like 5 in the morning one night watching YouTube videos on video editing. Like, and I looked, I'm like, how did I do this? I have to be at work. I have to be at work soon. And I did not close my eyes. Jeez. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, YouTube is a rabbit hole. Like, if you start, you automatically know you're gonna be on there for some hours because
Yeah.
it's bad.
I just how? And you tell yourself, okay, after this video,
Yeah.
like, I need to go do this. And then you look in the sidebar and you're like, ooh, you're like, oh, damn. Right back at it. So I'm curious to know because I've been asking people with season two, like, or at least in season one, I was asking people how 2020 has been treating them. And it's
Mhm.
been a mixture. Overall, it's kind of like yikes of a year, but at the same time, some good stuff has come up from it. But since we're so close to the new year, I would like to know what your goals are for 2021.
Okay, so my goals for 2021, my number one goal is by the time 2021 hits, I want to be a full on vegetarian. And
Okay.
in 2021, I want to be vegan. So those are like my main goals. I know it seems so simple, but it's really hard. Like
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're cutting food, like that is hard. I feel like almost like an addict because I feel like I relapse and like I kind of have withdrawals and stuff
Hmm.
like when I'm trying to cut out meat. um
Yeah.
it's so real. So those are my two main goals. And I'm actually going vegan because it's supposed to help with PCOS. I have polycystic
Mhm.
ovarian syndrome, and
Yeah.
so my husband and I are also hoping to conceive in 2021. So
Oh, yay.
yeah, so we're hoping for complete veganism and for a baby in 2021.
That's awesome, that's awesome. Well, definitely hit up my girl Kara at The Grateful Girl. She, has gone vegan and really good friend of mine. We actually did an episode last season, but one thing that I really love about her is she's able to take, like, your favorite foods and things and veganize it.
Hmm.
Like, her cookie recipe, she's made them for me so many times, I'm not even kidding, and I'm like, if these were vegan, I'd have no idea. Like, she knows all the little hacks. Like, there's some kind of, like, it's like this dried plant, but it has the consistency of chicken.
Jackfruit.
And yeah, no, something else. I
No?
I know jackfruit, but it was something else. Anyways, she has all of these great recipes and
Uh-huh.
things, of where how you can, like, turn your favorite things, and especially baking, because I love baked stuff, baked pastries and all that. So, definitely hit up Kara, the Grateful
Yes,
Girl.
I will have to find
She
that.
has all the great things. Shout out to Kara. Cool. So, fun fact, you are a type 1 diabetic, right? And I'm type 2. And
Mhm.
so something that I know we've talked offline about is that my understanding of life as a type 1 diabetic is very minimal.
Mhm.
So I would love to kind of just get your take and your story of like when you were diagnosed and kind of what difficulties you faced kind of growing up and dealing with that and having to help people understand the differences between the two. Cause I know sometimes you could just say, I'm a diabetic, and everybody just assumes type 2 at some point, not realizing like there's more than one and they do
Yeah,
different things. So I would just love if you could share your story about, coming into your diagnosis and how you navigated that.
of course. So I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 10 years old. My mom took me to the doctor. She thought that I actually had a bladder infection because my main symptoms were frequent urination,
Mm.
like literally waking up in the middle of the night 4 or 5 times to go to the restroom, um, drinking lots and lots of water. And I was just always tired, very lethargic. And so she took me in to get tested for a bladder infection. And it turned out I was like peeing out ketones. I had sugar in my urine.
Mhm.
And so I think my blood sugar was like 397, and the doctor was like, she needs to go to the hospital right now. And
Wow.
it was just like, of course, at 10 years old, I didn't know what anything meant. But I remember looking at my mom's face, and she was a nurse. She had just got out of nursing school at that time. And like I looked at her face, and before she could fix it, I could see like the terror in her face, and it scared the living life out of me.
Yeah.
Living life. I'm trying not to cuss. So that's anyway. But yeah,
Free reign here, just so you know.
but yeah, it definitely scared me. So anyway, fast forward, you know, at 10 years old, I think I really had to grow up a lot quicker because,
Yeah.
you take just an ounce more than you're supposed to of insulin, you can die. If you don't
Yeah.
take enough, you can die. Like it's like these are life altering decisions that a child is making. And granted, my mom definitely helped me a lot at the beginning, but she was a single mother, so whenever she was at work, I had to make these decisions.
Yeah.
So anyway, thankfully, I think when I was 11 or 12 years old, I was blessed to be able to go to a diabetes camp. Shout out to Camp Sweeney, that is in Gainesville, Texas.
Oh,
Anyway,
wow.
yeah. So I went there one summer for like 3 weeks, and it was so awesome. I met all these kids who had diabetes, and I just learned so much, and it was so great to be around other students who or other kids who had it. Um,
Yeah.
Actually, I forgot to mention, and I don't think I've ever mentioned this on a recording, but when I was in the second grade, there was a diabetic boy. His name was Jay in my class, and he always like ate Cheetos in class, and like we weren't allowed to have snacks. And I
Uh,
didn't know what diabetes meant, and I remember saying, "I wish I had diabetes," and like
oh, no.
yes, and literally like a year later, I ended up with freaking I mean, it was just crazy. So now, like, I seriously believe in speaking things into the world. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, but yeah, so the hardest thing, I guess, for me initially was just like having to accept the fact that I wasn't just like everybody else. Like in high school, I
Yeah.
kind of went through a denial phase of like, I don't have to check my blood sugars because I know my body. Like I can feel when I'm high, I can feel when I'm low. So like I never really checked my blood sugars. This was before CGMs. I rarely checked my blood sugars. I would take insulin for my food, but that's only half of the battle. So
Right.
I got through that phase of life. And in college, it's like I literally woke up one day and was like, I think I want to take care of myself. I don't know why. It was literally just like I woke up one day like that. And I was working out all the time. And, I really started trying to make better decisions for myself, checking my blood sugar more often. I've never really eaten bad because I was an athlete in high
Yeah.
school. So, um, whoa, I just lost track of what I was saying. Um, oh, okay. So then in college, probably like my junior year, um, I had a lot of friends who would like end up seeing me take insulin or check my blood sugar or something. Keep in mind, we had been friends for like 3 years up to this point. And
Mhm.
they would be like, oh my gosh, you have diabetes? I never knew that. Lexie, we've been friends for 3 years. Why did I not know this? And I was like, okay, I need to start like telling people about this because if something happens to me and nobody knows that I'm diabetic, like I could,
Right.
and so that's what actually kind of sparked me talking about diabetes. I mean, it was just part of my life. I never really felt the need to talk about it. Uh,
Right.
and so the easiest way for me to share information about diabetes was on Instagram. That's where all of my sorority sisters were, my friends in college and high school, family members. And it kind of just, took off from there.
That's awesome. Yeah. I don't know what it is about those moments where you're just like instinctive, like, I just need to do this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely had a couple of those moments like, okay, I just need to do it. I don't know why. I don't know what, what was
Yeah.
working in the universe behind the scenes of like, just pop up. I need to do this. So I definitely understand waking up and you're just like, okay. so so now that so you shared that like for the most part you kept your diagnosis to yourself. You didn't really feel a need to share that until your later years in college. So I'm curious, like when you did start to share, like what were some common misconceptions that people would have about your diagnosis, about how you should, do things, or, did you kind of run into any ignorance of like, hey, I'm doing something and somebody decides they should tell me how I should do something? Like, I haven't been living with this since I was 10, stuff like that. Cause I feel like, we run into that, and people mean well, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they don't recognize like sometimes how offensive it can be to tell
Right.
somebody who's been dealing with this. So I'm just curious about, what those stories and
Yeah.
how that was like for you.
So, and actually, the first ignorant, a little piece of ignorance actually came from my dad when I was first diagnosed because my parents were divorced, both remarried.
Mhm.
And my dad got the phone call, rushed to the hospital, and immediately was like fussing at my mom, like, "You've been feeding her sugar. Like, has she been eating? Have you been feeding her bad foods?" Like, immediately. And
Mm.
so, of course, that's when the doctor explained to my dad, like, type 1 diabetes has nothing to do with the food she was eating and that type of thing. But that was like the first comment that I had ever heard. And that's what I thought, hearing my dad say that, I was like, oh, I ate too much.
Mm.
And so anyway, of course I learned eventually that was not the case. But in college, I remember, and even in high school, when I would stay with friends at sleepovers, of course, their parents would be concerned about like, what can she eat? We shouldn't order pizza. Like she can't eat, like, what do we need to feed you? Can you only have water and salads? Like, what can you have?
Oh my god.
Yeah, or like they would, of course, which I appreciate it now looking back, but like they wanted my mom's phone number and like they didn't know anything about diabetes. So it was, I mean, I can understand why it would be scary to have somebody else's child in your house,
Yeah.
if you don't know how to help them. And then in college, I had plenty of friends who were like scared to go out with me, like go, to the club or whatever, because they just thought something would happen. Like
Yeah.
alcoholic drinks, they didn't know what it meant, like if I could drink them. I've had a friend actually go off on me. She was super drunk, but she like went off on me because she didn't know that I was drinking a rum and diet Coke. She thought I had Coke and regular Coke, which I can drink regular Coke. Of course I just
Right.
didn't want to. But she was just like, "You're not taking care of yourself, and something's gonna happen to you." And it was just like, oh my
Oh Lord.
god,
Those drunken fights.
yeah, and
Jeez.
of course, oh my god, it just makes things 10 times worse. So, but yeah, I feel like a lot of the misconception is, I mean, the misconception honestly is common for both type 1 and type 2 diabetes because
Yeah.
people think that type 2 diabetes is solely caused by lack of exercise and eating bad foods, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
Not every time. So I just think, honestly, I blame Hollywood. I blame the media. I blame doctors for not really educating people. So yeah, those misconceptions are very common.
Yeah, yeah, it's always fun. I think my biggest struggle, like, being in Texas in general and then here in Austin, food is a
Hmm.
big common denominator, and it's always about where's the spot to go drink, here's
Yep.
some music,
Yep.
food, right? Anytime people visit that, those are three things you want to know. And having been here, through my short stint in college and deciding to stay here, like the going out culture never changed. It
Yeah.
just shifted around, okay, now I have a job. And
Hmm.
so going out when I was first diagnosed was so frustrating because I didn't really change how I drank. Now I do. I usually either do, straight or with like some kind of like club soda or sparkling water. Just I only add juice or soda if like I know I'm getting to that point or I hadn't eaten yet to
Hmm.
really give myself a base to go off of. But I was still doing, oh my God, I can't believe I drank this cherry vodka sodas. Those that was my drink of choice. I can't even imagine that I drank vodka. Now it's like like now I can't do it. But when we would go out to eat, it would be like, "Oh, should you be eating that? Oh,
Hmm.
you sure you want that? Ooh, wait, hold on. Oh, let me try a little bit of that on your plate. Yeah, sure. Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. Let me move it. Like, you're just like, I can eat things, guys. Like, it's okay. It's just I have a different way of going about it.
Hmm.
Or not being invited at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not people not understanding, like, when you guys invite me places, I'm already pulling up the menu to see if I need to eat now
Mm-hmm.
or if I can pick around in there later. You don't have to worry about that. It's
Yeah.
not your responsibility. So I wholeheartedly agree that a lot of the misconceptions comes from misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think even a little bit of, at least for me, my mom was so, soon as she was diagnosed, like sugar free everything, like
Mm-hmm.
everything. It just got really dramatic really quick. And so seeing those behaviors too was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, this is kind of what it is. And so not even our parents really knew or understood
Yeah.
what it actually was supposed to be because nobody took time to tell them. So I feel that that's oh fun, guys. Please don't fall into misconceptions. Do your research.
Yes.
Whatever you do your research. Jeez. So speaking of research, I'm curious because I know you mentioned CGMs for a second, which I am still understanding again because I haven't used anything like that myself. But I just would like to know like what tools, tech, as you learned, I'm a tech nerd, so I love all the apps and things, and other resources do you, enjoy or that you really felt like helped you get to a point where you could optimize your living while still managing your diagnosis in a healthy way.
Yeah. So I would say honestly, the other than the insulin pump, a CGM is probably actually to me it's more innovative than the insulin pump because a CGM, and it doesn't matter which one you get, people have different preferences, but
Mm,
so okay, when you prick your finger, you can only see what your blood sugar is in that second, in that moment.
right.
2 minutes later, your blood sugar is going to change. So let's just say my blood sugar is 135. That's a good number. I want to work out. Okay, well, my blood sugar is not low. I should be fine, right? Well, what if you're actually 135 and going down? You
Mm-hmm.
don't have a CGM, you don't know that you're going down. So then you go work out and you crash. You get to like 50 or 40 or something crazy like that. And it could have been avoided if you knew that you're 135 and dropping already. Or same
Right.
thing with eating. You don't, it's knowing the direction, knowing where you're going is almost more important or just as important as knowing where you are in that very moment. And another great thing about CGMs is now most of them have alarms. So, like, if you have a low blood sugar, a lot of diabetics, thank God I don't have this problem. I can feel like most of my low blood sugars, but
Yeah.
a lot of diabetics can't feel lows. Many diabetics have passed out and went into comas and just like crazy stuff because they can't feel their low blood sugars. And with the CGM, you'll get an alert, like it'll wake you up, or it'll notify you. And then the other thing is, which oh my gosh, this is a whole rant for a different day, but the way that the American healthcare system operates and the direction and advice that they give us is not always the best. Usually it's better for them, for their bottom line, financially.
Right.
So just like the recommended testing your blood sugar 4 times a day, 4 times a day is nothing. Like that means absolutely nothing. Like
Mm-hmm.
so when your doctor, although you can go purchase more test strips, you can buy as many test strips as you want, but if they're not prescribed to you, you're going to pay out of pocket for those.
Right.
You can only check your blood sugar 4 times a day. Okay, so that's supposed to be before you eat. That's what they usually say. Test it before you eat. Okay. So if I test my blood sugar before I eat, how do I know what different foods make me spike and what different foods are not hurting me? You don't know that because you can't even see what your blood sugars are doing after you eat. Or what if I eat 4 times a day? I check my blood sugar those 4 times. Well, then I feel like my blood sugar is dropping later on. Okay, so now I need to waste another test strip. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it just it frustrates me so much. I think CGMs need to just be like passed out, like how they passed out condoms in high schools and
Right.
Planned Parenthood places. Like CGMs needs to be passed out to diabetics because they can literally save lives. I actually had a friend who I went to diabetes camp with at Camp Sweeney. She passed away in college in her sleep. She didn't have her CGM on, and she had a low blood sugar. And it's just like, just thinking about the fact that wow, like she could still be here. Like
Yeah.
these tools can literally save lives. There's been plenty of times when my CGM has woken my husband up before it woke me up, and he woke me up so I could drink some juice.
Yeah.
And I just
Yeah.
think about how many times like I probably would have died or at least been in a coma or something if I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have CGM. So that's number one. I know I spoke for a long time about that.
No, I think it's important because I haven't used one before, but I'm like I've been considering because like you said, they trained at least for type 2 folks, eat to your meter, which is, check before I'm supposed to check once a day, right?
Right.
And then it's in the mornings fasting. And then, my doctor said you could optionally check again after dinner if you kind of want to see where you're at. But like you said, it doesn't give the full spectrum throughout the
Mhm.
day. And thankfully I do feel my lows, but also, what about the highs too? You know what I mean? Like if I'm creeping up way too high, I won't always think that my brain fog or that, all of these feelings that I'm having is me actually, because my sugars are way too high. And being able to see, how that reaction is. So now I do have to waste extra strips checking after I've eaten something to see is it bringing me up? Is it keeping me even or is it dropping me? And
Mhm.
those strips are not cheap,
Mhm.
like at all.
Yeah.
So I am I'm very open minded to CGMs because I'm still learning so much about them, especially now that they are coming out with more and more options. Because I'm actually interested in one myself just to try it out, just to kind of see what my day is doing because I do the 90-day A1C thing,
Mhm.
and it's good to know when things are trending down and when you're seeing good number readings, but to really have a deeper impact on
Mhm.
how to navigate your eating cycle and things like that, I do think it's important to like, what am I actually doing during the day? Maybe I'm spiking at
Mhm.
4 o'clock in the afternoon because that's when I have happy hour. I don't know, whatever is going on. So, yeah, I'm really interested in checking one out for myself for
Yeah,
sure.
I think the best way I honestly don't personally believe, and some people might come at me for this, but I do not believe that you can get the absolute best management of your diabetes without a CGM. There's no way because you don't know how to fine tune, you know.
Right.
So yeah, I'm a huge CGM advocate. I also use the oh my god, the Omnipod tubeless insulin pump, which is amazing. I used to have the T Slim insulin pump, and that was great too. I personally don't like tubing. My husband likes being able, whenever things get frisky, he doesn't want to
Yeah.
have to worry about tubing, like all that kind of stuff. So that's
Sure.
amazing. And also for people who don't use pumps or who can't afford a pump or who don't want a pump, there is an insulin pen, a smart insulin pen. I was actually one of the first people to use it, called the
Mhm.
N Pen by Companion Medical. It came out probably about 4 years ago, and now it's totally evolved. But it has almost every tool that an insulin pump has. So you can your you can calculate your insulin dose based on your carbs and your blood sugar through their app. It keeps track of how much insulin is actually in your body. So like
Wow.
your IOB, so like an insulin pump will tell me like right now I still have 2 units in my body, so I know I probably don't need to take more insulin. If my blood sugar is high, it's probably going to come down. Well, this insulin pen does the same thing. It also has, oh, I can't think of everything that it has because I haven't used it in so long, but it is amazing. So y'all make sure to check that out. The N Pen by Companion Medical. I am not like an affiliated person with them. I just really love that technology. And it's also very affordable. I think it's like $80 a year for the pen itself. You have to get a new one each year. And then
Mm.
cartridges, I mean, I think, it's based on your insurance for that part. But
Right.
yeah, so definitely that one. Love that one.
Nice. So how was your experience transitioning from manually injecting insulin to the pump? Because I think that's the thing that I see such a mixture of. So like my dad takes insulin, but he does the normal pin shot. Um, but I see people with their pumps, and I'm just like curious, but obviously I can't like take it off of somebody and be like, hey, can I look at this and see how it does? And actually when I was working for Apple a long time ago, I worked with someone who, he transitioned to a pump. So he would still do the shot, but he still had the tubing and everything for it. And, I don't know what his setup was, but I remember sitting there thinking he's a tall, skinny, lanky guy, which by the way, guys, diabetes doesn't have a look. Fun
Right.
fact. And, understanding, I'm like, okay, you're a diabetic but you're type 1, like I'm aware that it's like an insulin thing and it's kind of physical gene disorder kind of thing, okay, but it just didn't phase me in the fact of like, oh, you're wearing this because it's actually like bringing the hormone that you need into your body to do what it's supposed to do.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, like, what was that transition like for you from, okay, I'm tired of taking these shots? Because my dad's like, it hurts. And I'm like, I can only imagine. I just do the finger. And I'm, when he goes off into the corner, I'm just like, I'm already like hugging myself because I'm just like, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine, and to be diagnosed so young on top of that, and, like, that's what you have to do,
Mhm.
like, more power to you because, I mean, I've got plenty of tattoos, so you'd think I'd be cool with needles by now, but, like, I don't know. So I'm just curious, that transition from manually to a pump and what that experience was like.
Yeah, so, honestly, syringes for me, they weren't that bad. Now, it also depends on what size your syringe is, and
Mhm.
thankfully, I was always able to pretty much use, like, the smallest syringe that they have. Um, so they weren't that painful. The only problem with syringes is A, you have to carry all of them around and your insulin around all the time. Um, B, disposing of them, you're supposed to use a sharps container. I'm gonna be completely honest with y'all. I use the milk jug. Um, and most of them you can, the smallest ones I think go to like the half unit.
Mm.
So that's they're great for some people. And honestly, like the same thing with that smart pen, the N pen that I was telling you about, it only goes down to a half unit. The great thing about insulin pumps, and I think the main thing that makes them so amazing is the fact that they can dose to the decimal. So like I can give myself zero point zero 0.02 units right now. And
Mm.
it's exact. So I don't have to worry about trying to eat a little bit more to make sure that I'm feeding that insulin that I'm taking so that I don't drop. I can get exactly what I need. And doing that basically almost has let me kind of go on like autopilot. So it's like, okay, I'm eating this much, my blood sugar is this, put it in my pump. Okay, I need 1.32 units. Bet my pump's already giving it to me, and I'm good. Uh,
Wow.
you only have to change it out every 3 days, and that's all. I think that's pretty much across the board, no matter what type of pump you have. Uh,
Okay.
it still is kind of painful to put it in, depending on where you're putting it on your body, and you can a lot of times feel the insulin going in sometimes.
Mm.
But with a pump, you also have a basal rate, which is basically like a little bit of insulin being dosed or whatever every hour. I think is it every hour? I think it's every hour. So it kind of takes the place of long acting insulin. So usually type 1 diabetics have to take a long acting insulin. They usually take it maybe like once or twice a day. And then the short acting insulin they'll take every time they eat. So,
Mm.
you're taking yourself about a good, we're just going to say 4 or 5 times a day. Uh,
Yeah.
Whereas with the pump, you stick yourself every 3 days and then everything is just kind of like on autopilot.
Wow. Wow. So the convenience is already
Yeah,
through the roof, it sounds like, because I can only imagine having to do
it's
that so many times a day.
yeah, and you don't really have to like I said, carrying all the syringes and worrying about. I've broken an insulin vial in the airport before. Oh my gosh, that was, and we had just gotten to the Cayman Islands. I went to go visit my dad in the Cayman Islands, and it was like, oh my gosh, I'm in a whole other country, and I just broke it.
Yeah.
That's liquid gold. So anyway, but you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. It's attached to you and you're good to go. And so like when I had the T Slim with tubing, I would just stick it in my sports bra and go about my day. And now
Yeah.
I have the tubeless one. It's like, where is it? Oh, it's on my back right now. It's just there. Like I forget that it's there most of the time. So super convenient.
Yeah, yeah. The tech in diabetes is definitely picking up, and I appreciate it a lot. Like, I use the one drop meter because I had like a standard AccuCheck,
Hmm.
but the idea, especially when I started out, I was checking 3 times a day. Um, and I was just like, okay, as much as I love journals and stuff, logging my numbers is just not one of those things that's
Yeah.
sticking, right? It's just not. Like, logging my food, logging my numbers, I'm not doing it. I can barely log a workout if I decide to work out because I don't work out right now. But, it's one of those things where you're just like, oh, like on top of all the things that you have.
Mhm.
So when I came across the one drop meter, I'm like, wait a minute, it's an app and I ain't got to, yep. Yep, sign me up, sign me up. And it actually was cheaper without my insurance. My
Wow.
insurance actually at the time was going to make it more expensive, and now they have like a their own kind of subscription plan, and
Mhm.
you can cater the amount of strips that you need to whatever how many times that you need to use it for. And so because I've come down on how many times that I need to check, they also do like a an estimated A1C. Like the more that you do readings, it can kind of give you an idea,
Mhm.
which also is helpful for me because it's like, okay, if I see that it starts creeping up, after month one, I'm like, all right, I know I'm not getting the full picture, but maybe I need to adjust some things. I can
Yeah.
generate a report and shoot it off to my doctor if I need to, or if I'm in the office with her and she's like, okay, well, what are your readings? Be like, right here you go. And I can change what type of graph it looks like and make it pretty. It's all these things. And they even have coaching programs to help you with that.
I
But I
love
think,
that.
yeah, it's really, really cool. But the tech aspect, I think, um, we're really starting to make huge strides in it. And I
Mhm.
think it's important because gosh, I don't think, I mean, we grew up right in the middle of things. We're like old school, but we can hang on to tech and we know how to
Yes.
roll with it. I don't know how these new kids gonna be able to like, you what? You didn't have an iPad when you were 2? Like, just like, I didn't. I used this thing with buttons on it that turned on a tube thing and pictures showed up. You know what I mean? Like, so just the idea of how tech can really evolve how we do things. And that's why I'm pretty excited to, look at CGMs more because the more invested I am in not only, being the guinea pig for my own platform,
Yeah.
but really seeing like how can I streamline this process because right now it's still semi manual. Like I
Mhm.
wake up, first thing I do, knock back a bottle of water, go check my numbers.
Mhm.
I have to make sure I pop the pills at night. If there are ways to automate that in any kind of way, like I'm all for it.
Yeah.
So being able to have your medication stay on you and then be dosed to you, shoot, I would have signed up if I could. Like, because and my pills are big. I have the extended release. They're like horse pills, and I got to take
Oh
two of
my
them.
gosh.
So I'm like, I'm trying to get off this ASAP. Because, geez, no, why? So I think that's awesome. So definitely have to check that out. CGMs and insulin pumps. Um, are there any other resources that you like to use? Like, have you checked out the MyBedic TV app
Mhm.
yet?
Oh, it's
I haven't I
amazing.
haven't down I haven't downloaded on my Fire Stick yet, but I am excited about that. That type of stuff is like
That
we
is
had a like there was an award show.
yeah. It's diabetic. So when they first came out with the bags, I have like 3 or 4 of the purses. I was like, "Man, this is great. Like finally people understand like we
Mhm.
cuz if you look at most of my purses, which now they're all nice and cozy in my closet cuz of COVID, but they all had test strips at the bottom of them. Like
Mhm.
my mom hated having to go look for something in my purse because she would probably get poked with the lancet. And I'm guilty. I rarely change my lancet, so I don't even know how I had some in my purse. Like I just don't even know.
Yeah.
But my bedding made it so much easier to be like to organize your stuff. And even if you don't organize your stuff, all your diabetic stuff is on one side, and all your like regular stuff is on the other side. And it was just amazing. So then for them to evolve into this like whole platform for diabetics, I just
Yeah.
kudos to my I love their brand and what they're doing. But yeah, their my or diabetic TV or whatever. It's awesome. I watched gosh, what was that show? I can't remember what the show is called right now. But anyway, it's really good. It's funny, like it's just stuff that we all can relate to because they're like, okay, yeah, like that happens for us every day. And
Yeah.
somebody on the outside, they don't it's rare that you see real, actual TV shows or whatever with somebody showing that they have diabetes. Like,
Right.
so it's
Or they make it a joke. And it's just like,
yeah, or
yeah, like
super dramatic. Or like I think there's only one movie that I can think of, and that was Panic. I think it's called Panic Room, where the little
mhm.
girl was diabetic. Have you seen that movie? Man,
Not Panic Room, but I remember there was another show. Was it Limitless? There was some like one of those crime CSI like shows where they
mhm.
used tracking his pump as a way to
Oh
find him.
wow, that was
Yeah, because he had to get a new prescription. A little boy had been kidnapped,
mm,
but the kidnapper was like related to him or something like that, and he had to go refill his prescription, and they kind of used that to back check him and the serial number on his pump and everything. So, but he was a little kid, and it makes sense, but there's so much more. And I loved when you got on the live with Glucose Gang Mike and you guys were talking about like having relations, because that's a thing. That's a thing. You know what I mean? And like, I hadn't even thought about that. I was like, oh man, like there have been moments where, me and my partner are together and I'm running off quick to go like knock back some juice because I forgot to eat, and I'm not trying to like tap out because I can't see straight. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. I never even like, oh man. And I know you mentioned like the tubing, so I'm like, this is a thing and nobody talks about this except
Nobody.
for us.
Yeah, it does, right? And it's just like technology has really, really helped. So like I was saying with Mike, it's just like, I can be still in the motion, right? And just like look at my watch. Okay, my blood sugar's good. Keep going, or like scan my CGM and be like, okay, I'm good. And there's been so many times, like my husband thankfully has learned to train himself to just like tune out the sound of my fruit snack wrappers, because there's plenty of times like in the middle, he's doing the work at the time. So like I'll be like, okay, look, my blood sugar's dropping, just keep going. I'm gonna eat a fruit snack real quick.
Yeah.
Like, but at the beginning, that's such a mood killer. Like,
yeah. Yeah. Like, am I boring you? It's just like, nah, like I just really need to hit these Scooby snacks real quick. Okay. Just like ignore it. You know what I mean? Like that's a thing, and even like the troubles that you can have, I didn't realize for men that, and it was my dad who told me, which made it so weird. Like, hey, this can cause problems and circulation issues. Did you know that? I'm like, cool. All right. I didn't know we was gonna talk about this, and we did it in our episode together. But it was still like, he's like, I can't believe we're talking about sex with my kid, and I'm like, I mean, I don't know what you want me to do, but like I had never even fully wrapped my head around all of the different small ways and big ways that even your mood, like before you even get to that point, like it's not that I don't think that you're hot stuff right now. I am just so hazy right now because I call it the shakes. Like I'm like, because I literally start to shake and I get hot and I'm sweating. I'm like, if I don't eat, drink everything in the house right now, you might not want to go there with me. I might murder you by accident. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's that kind of stuff that's so insane. And I'm glad that, my diabetic has taken the step in providing, visual content that, tells stories that's similar to what we go through. Speaking of partners, I really would love to know more about you and your husband and like how that's been going. I did an episode with my partner, but like I'm curious now that you've had to deal with the tubing and you're having to take insulin and make sure that it's a regular thing because it can be life threatening if you don't. Like how was that in you guys dating and getting married and like building a life together?
So, honestly, my husband is probably or has been the most fearless like person that I have ever dated, which is probably why he's my husband. But, like he just didn't care. Like, okay, you have diabetes, all right, cool. And next conversation, like
Right.
a big deal. But he also has been so intentional about learning. We went to an event hosted by JDRF, the San Antonio chapter, a couple years ago. And like, he's the one who's like, well, we need to go to the one where they're talking about like, pregnancy and diabetes. I need to know what I need to be doing and looking for. And like, it feels good to know that somebody, like, you don't have to try to like force somebody to learn, you know?
Right.
And there's been so many times because I do have an issue or am working on an issue that I have with trying to be too overly independent. Like I have a partner here. I don't have to do everything by myself,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's hard for me to like, I've been taking care of my diabetes for my whole life. Like,
Right.
But there are times when he wants to like, well, let me try to, put your CGM on. I need to know how to do this. I need to know how to do that. And I mean, it's true. He does need to know because what happens well, actually it has happened. During our honeymoon, we were in Mexico. The girl got drunk AF. But my CGM came off for one. So, because usually he would just look at his phone and he has all my blood sugars. He can see them. So he
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what my blood sugars were. All I remember is walking up to the bar and getting one last rum and Diet Coke, and then I don't remember anything after that. I was like, my first time blacking out was my 21st birthday, and that was my second time blacking out during my honeymoon. And girl, he was just like, I was terrified. I didn't know if your blood sugar was low or if you were just drunk. Like I couldn't tell.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
we had taken a cruise ship. So we were like 10 miles from the cruise ship, and like I didn't have my glucometer because we had my CGM. And it
Mm-hmm.
was, oh my gosh. So he flagged down a taxi, girl, got me in the taxi, like took us to the cruise ship. And he said like he couldn't find my glucometer, and I had just left it in my purse. I don't know why he didn't look at my purse, but anyway, he ended up taking me to the little ER that they have on the cruise ship, and had them check my blood sugar. Thank God my blood sugar was fine. I was just super drunk, but
Mm-hmm.
he was able to. Okay, her blood sugar is kind of high right now. Let me type that into her pump and give her some insulin. Like he was able to do all of that, and it's like you
Yeah.
don't realize that your partner really needs to understand this for times like that. So
Right. Right.
that was the most like I was like, okay, good. Like he could take care of me. Like, that just felt so good. So it's been a roller coaster for sure, because obviously with diabetes, like as soon as you get used to something, it changes. Like I could eat an
Mm-hmm.
apple today and my blood sugar's fine, and I could eat an apple next week and my blood sugar spikes. Like it's just always changing. And
Yep.
so that's also kind of frustrating for him, because he'll think he'll try to like predict what my blood sugar is going to be or whatever. Like he'll really try to cater to some of those needs. And then he gets kind of discouraged when it doesn't happen that way. It's definitely, I mean, all it really is just a journey, because there's no like definite point when you're just to the ultimate place of like perfect diabetes. Like it's,
Yeah, I wish.
I know, right? But it has been very interesting. We've definitely both grown a lot because of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. It makes you aware of how you need to take care of yourself. It brings you together,
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to all the partners out there who are trooping it for your diabetics in your life.
Yes.
It's a thing. He doesn't even like he trusts me to make sure I'm making the right call, but he's a lot more aware, more sensitive now of things,
Mm-hmm.
especially like when we order stuff. Because lately so now he just hands me the phone. He's like, I'm not even gonna attempt to think I can guess what's gonna be best for you right now, because he definitely eats very much like a military man. Like it's just for function. It
Yeah.
is not for enjoyment. It's just like if I don't eat, I might literally fall to the ground. So I should probably do that. So I probably shouldn't pick your food because I'm just not gonna consider things. So, but he definitely understands and like making sure that I'm okay, and um, especially when we're out drinking.
Mhm.
Like he's very mindful and watchful over me. Because I've definitely had some moments where I was like, wake up the next morning, I'm like, so how we get home? Because nope. Was it like how bad? Like, was it bad? It's like, oh, okay, okay, all right, it wasn't bad. I tried to get you to hydrate. You said no. Eesh, my bad. Like, those moments. But yeah, that's awesome. So I really love to talk about your business now, Sugarless Society, and everything that you're doing with it. And I'm just curious, like, what pushed you to start it, and then what are you hoping to accomplish moving forward, as we continue to navigate the pandemic and all kinds of things, and hopefully into mommyhood very soon. All of that, I'd love to know more about your business.
Yeah, so actually, the Sugarless Society was originally called Lomed Boutique, and that was established simply because I just didn't like the bracelets, the diabetic bracelets that were out there. And I actually designed one. I sketched it out just for myself.
Hmm.
And it turned out, obviously it was more cost effective to just buy in bulk than to have one made. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just buy a bunch of them and hopefully other people will like them and I'll just sell them and get rid of them. But it turned out, people actually really like them. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I should like make this a real business. And of course, I wanted to somehow just give back to the diabetes community, obviously, because it is my community.
Mhm.
And so I was able to partner with the Sonia Nabita Foundation, which is a nonprofit that pretty much provides education and medical supplies for type 1 diabetic children in Africa. And they
Mm.
also have like camps, and it's a really great organization. So I was able to partner with them to where, a portion of the proceeds from all of my bracelets go to them.
Yeah.
Um, So it's really just kind of like, I mean, it is a business, obviously, but it's really just like a feel good. It just feels good, like, I don't know, just
Yeah.
knowing that you're providing something that people actually like, and it's stylish. That was my biggest thing. Like, I hated wearing the ugly, clunky medical bracelets. I would take it off whenever my mom wasn't around because I didn't want to wear it, and then I would lose it, and then it was like, get about another one. And then the ones that were really cute, they're pretty expensive, and I lose stuff all the time. So it was just like, okay, I gotta like find something that's good for me.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, that's really how it all kind of started. And now it's kind of evolved into, honestly, I feel like I'm trying to do a little bit of everything, and I need to just kind of like sit down for a second and focus on one thing. Cause I feel like I just want to do so much for so many people. So like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I have recipes on there. I have a blog. I started a Facebook group so like the women can connect with each other, and it's great.
Mhm.
I mean, it's definitely a great thing. But for sure, like as I progress towards motherhood, like I'm probably gonna have to take a back seat and let somebody else. Like I said, I'm kind of a control freak. I kind of like to have my hands in everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like take a step back. But overall, Sugarless Society is really just a way for me to continue to spread awareness and to give back to the diabetes community all in one.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I appreciated, like you said, like medical bracelets, they are just not at all appealing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I came across you that I even considered like, oh, should I be wearing a medical bracelet? Oh, I didn't even think about that. Maybe I should because I always get the shocked face when people are like, "Oh, you're diabetic." I'm like, "Yeah," because in my mind, I'm like, "Duh," like because I'm used to my small circle who they just know. But
Mhm.
when I meet new people, I forget like, "Oh, you have to go through the whole reprogramming of my life," and I never considered, okay, what if something happens?
Mhm.
And granted, I have it programmed into my phone for like that emergency pull up information.
Yeah.
But if something happens to the screen is shot to hell, like, all right, well, then what? So I never even considered that. And that was one of the things that drew me to it is like, they're so stylish. They can blend in with any of the jewelry that I already have.
Mhm.
Um, and then the shirts, I cannot wait to get paid on Friday, next Friday. So that way I can like plan out what my fun stuff is because that bad bougie Betic shirt, I need it. Like I need it. I need it. And I love that it's like a conversation starter, like you told me. Like it's something to make you think about it because it's easy to get in our bubbles
Yeah.
because this is all that we've known, or have had to learn to know. But once we start to like interact with other people and when we can start to actually do that on a scale that isn't like, please don't get me Rona, like, we can really have these meaningful conversations
Mhm.
surrounding this. And something that you've been advocating for recently that I've been also trying to like, oh shit, I didn't know this was going on, is there's no insulin in Iran. You know what I mean? And how many people really understand what that means if they're not having these conversations about being a diabetic? But yeah, having these meaningful conversations surrounding what that means because there's definitely a lot of ignorance of okay, if a whole country does not have insulin,
Mhm.
I don't think you understand like what
Exactly.
that really means and how that's instantly killing people.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of time, you know what I mean? And so I think having products that start that conversation, you know, can really be impactful because you run into people and it happens. Hey, oh, I love that shirt. Where'd you get that shirt from? And we as women sometimes we can't just take compliments. We have to share
Yeah.
that we bought it on sale or something. Like we can, so like if you're gonna go that route anyways, like we typically do, then how cool would it be to be like, oh my God, what does your shirt mean? Where did
Exactly.
you get it from? And like what's the mission behind it? It's like, hey, it's because there are countries like Iran that don't have insulin.
Mhm.
There are communities of color that can't afford insulin right
Right.
here in your backyard, and I think that that's awesome that you're building something that speaks to that. But again, also doesn't make me want to like cringe at what's on my wrist because now I kind of want one. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I guess I should have a medical bracelet, but it's cute. Like, guys, they're cute. Like, I would wear it probably even if I wasn't, which is probably bad. So if you're not, don't buy it. I mean, buy it, just give it to somebody who's
Somebody
diabetic. Don't confuse the world. But that's what I really appreciated is that like, hey, I can feel normal, but
Mhm.
know that it also serves a purpose of
Right.
if something were to happen, it's
Mhm.
informative.
Yeah,
So
I think, when so 2 things, I guess. With the bracelet, so something that most people notice is that there's not like the red medical symbol or whatever on it. Um,
mhm.
and that was simply because I wanted it to be discreet enough to where, like, women, the way that we think, okay, this has red on it. I'm not wearing red, like, but
Yep.
it since diabetic is literally written out, like, there's no way that you cannot know that I'm diabetic unless you just can't read.
Right.
And if that's the case, hopefully you have somebody with you who can read.
Right.
But, and another thing is like, so I think too often people feel the need. I mean, it is important to educate people on the differences between type 1 and type 2 diabetes, but there is also a lot of division within the diabetes community concerning type 1 and type 2 diabetes. At the end of the day, because some people feel like, oh, type 1s are better than type 2 diabetics or type 2 diabetic, like it's this crazy misconception. And at
Mhm.
the end of the day, we are all in this thing that don't none of us want. We're
Right.
here. We're just trying to survive. So if you pass out in public, guess what? It doesn't matter if you're type 1 or type 2. Somebody needs to know that you're diabetic. Diabetic,
Right.
if you passed out, either your blood sugar is high or it's low. If they know that you're diabetic, they can at least tell the ambulance, okay, hey, she's diabetic, and they can figure out, what you need. But I think that's just something important for a lot of people to understand because too many people feel the need to, I guess, always point the finger at the one that they're not, the type
Right.
not.
Yeah.
And also with the shirts, like you said, because I definitely forgot to mention that, it is definitely all about starting conversations. Some of the stuff is funny, like hi AF, and
Mhm.
in small font it says without insulin, but it's literally for conversation starters. Somebody will see you with a shirt that says hi AF. They'll probably look at you crazy. Actually, I've gotten crazy looks before. Uh, and then, as they get closer, they kind of read the bottom of it like, oh, okay, like, so you're diabetic. And it's like,
Mhm.
like, yes, I
And
am.
even if I did engage, it ain't your business.
Exactly. But yeah, it's literally all about spreading awareness, like I said, because it's hard to make people aware because most people don't care about something if it doesn't affect them. So
Exactly.
it's like, what other way, unless you ask me about it, how am I going to start a conversation with a stranger about diabetes?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it's awesome. Are you hoping to do like a full line or what do you hope to kind of expand Sugarless Society into? It sounds like you're building a community. But even are you gonna do like any type of coaching stuff or are you gonna stick with like physical products? Like what
So
can we
I personally don't have any certifications to do any type of coaching. But what I would love to do within building, I guess, yeah, you could definitely call it a community, a sisterhood, or whatever, is for all of us, who are in this community, we know, like, okay, she's a therapist, okay, she's a doctor, like, we all kind of have everything that we need all within this community. So we're not having to go seek outside. And we all know for the most part that everybody hopefully has pure intentions because
Mhm.
we're all in this community together. So that's eventually what I would like for everything to kind of evolve into. Because it's really, I mean, the products, initially just came about because I had to get products. And now, now that, especially with me giving a portion of the proceeds to the Sonia Nabita Foundation, it really just makes it more meaningful to me having, to have the product. So there probably will always be products simply because of that. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's definitely hopefully going to evolve into more of a community aspect.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely something that I am recognizing more and more. which is why I was excited. I almost felt like I was intruding when you and Mike did that live because, it was something that I could understand but couldn't 100% relate to because, I'm not on the insulin side of things. But I learned so much, and it actually was what pushed me to really expand my platform past type 2 diabetics because I was like, you know what? I don't want to play into that division.
Mhm.
It yes, is there room to say, hey, Lexi's type 1, I'm type 2, simply for the very basic matter of like there's certain things that Lexi's going to need and certain things that Taylor's going to need.
Right.
But that's really it. That's the
Exactly.
only separating factor. And so I really wanted to ensure that whatever I talk about, even though I'm going to share my personal experiences, that I include perspectives that have all of those sides because it matters and you never know who you're coming across. Because just like you, like I wasn't really advertising that I
Mhm.
was a diabetic, and it's always funny when you see people's faces react when you meet them and you're eating, and they just kind of look at you like, "You just had like 3 glasses of wine. Like, are you sure you're supposed to be doing that? Like, mind your business. I know what I'm doing over here." You know what I mean? Like, but even so, like, I think it's just so important for us to connect. And I was actually telling someone, when I first started this a few years ago, um, I was one intimidated by the lack of people just in the diabetic space in general. And then of course the lack of black women or black men because that's who I relate to, right?
Mhm.
And then, as I teetered between like, okay, do I really want to have this brand or not? And finally committed to, okay, the podcast route is what I should do and got back involved in the community. It's exploded over the last couple of years. And if old Taylor were sitting here, I'd have been intimidated because all I would see was competition,
Yeah.
right? And now I'm like, no, I see collaboration. I see
Exactly.
people that I can learn from. I see people that can help me fill in the gaps
Mhm.
of things that I'm not aware of, like being a type 1 diabetic. And so I think us trying to build those communities and make sure that the appropriate information is out there, while still saying, do your research,
Yeah.
like, because you just shouldn't follow everything that somebody says. Even, I don't want anybody to follow directly what I say without them doing the research
Right.
because it may not work for you, and that's
Mhm.
okay. So I think I'm really excited for, what your brand is going to do and provide and how it's going to continue to connect people. I love what you're doing and advocating for Iran. Like, you were the first person that I knew to like make it aware for me. I was literally
Mhm.
just scrolling through. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about this?
Mhm.
I'm looking up everything and I'm like, dang, okay, well, I need to do my part. I need to make sure I'm putting, what I can out there, even to the few people that actually do pay attention to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's still, connecting. So
Exactly.
um so thank you for all that you're doing. And for creating medical bracelets that are bomb looking, because again, I never thought about having one. I probably should get one. I should really get one. Might save my life one day. Okay, so last question. Well, semi last question. What's one piece of advice that you would give to whether it's type 1, type 2 diabetic? What's one thing that you would want to leave them with if it was the last thing that you had to tell someone?
The last thing that I would tell any diabetic is, hmm, really, I want people to, I guess, kind of soak up the mentality of, even though, obviously we're not proud to be diabetic, we don't have to be ashamed of it either. Like,
Mm,
I feel like that is a big thing. Like, I see a lot of people now almost feeling like they have to say, like, people have said, like, proud diabetic. Like, are you really proud? Like, I understand that you're proud of what you've overcome because of diabetes, like that
mhm.
aspect of it, but you don't have to be happy to have diabetes. Like, I don't think anybody is just like, yes, I have diabetes. Like, that's
Right.
the case, but you also don't have to be ashamed. And I think the biggest thing that we can all do, which I love to see on Instagram now, I only really follow diabetics on Instagram now, but just everybody living their everyday life. Like, that's all it's about. That's what it's all about. So especially like, people get all into the sucked into that influencer thing, and it's like, It does not matter. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. It doesn't matter if you think nobody's paying attention. If you are following one person and one person is following you, y'all are both influencing each other. So
Right.
that energy that you're putting out there, that positivity that you're putting out there, and it doesn't always have to be positive. Like, don't fall into the trap of, I have to make my life look so perfect on Instagram. I have to look like the perfect diabetic. Like, we all know that it's not real. So,
Right.
you know,
Right.
share the bad stuff. Like, I posted last night, I was 55 and dropping. Like, because everybody goes through it. You don't have to be ashamed of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think really just embracing, yes, the fact that you have diabetes, but you are still an individual person that has something to offer the world. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest thing that I really just want to put out there.
Word. I co-sign on all of that.
Thank you.
All of that. That's great. Yeah, no, I agree. Like we definitely and I find myself having to catch myself, and that's usually when I'm like, I need a social media break. When
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, I need to make sure this is perfect. I need to make sure when I'm posting this, I'm only posting that. It's just like, no, the whole reason why I wanted to do this is to tell people like I'm not there yet. Like my last A1C was 7.5.
Mhm.
Now it was a drop from the 10, and I'm gonna take that win and I'm gonna keep working at it, but I'm not there yet, and that's okay. I'm doing better, and every day that I take a step towards doing better. Cool. I had pizza last night. Not
Me
ashamed of it.
too.
It was good. It
It
was
was good.
damn good. It was Friday. I didn't want to leave the house. I went do nothing. I had my whiskey. I had my pizza. It's a great night,
Yeah,
And
I had mine.
yeah, I took my meds. I drank my water, and this morning I checked, and I think it was like what 140. Not terrible. Because majority of the time I'm doing the work to ensure that my body compensates. So when I do get a treat, hey, I'm not really like, oh my God, I ate pizza and the world is over. I can't like, no, no, we're not about to do that. It's
Yeah.
okay. So I support that 100%. Just be yourself and it's okay. Um, so with that being said, where can people find you? How can they connect with you? If how can they buy something from get you a medical bracelet so you're not running around out here like me with no medical bracelet, all the things. How can they connect with you?
So you can find me on Instagram. My personal Instagram is the diabetic, and my business website is the sugarlesssociety.com or Sugarless Society on Instagram. And that's where you can find me.
It's awesome. Well, thank you, Lexie, for your time. This has been really fun. And again, guys, there's no insulin in Iran.
There is none.
Raise all the hell possible. Because I'm sure if it were happening here in the States, it'd be a whole nother story.
Exactly.
So thank you for making me aware of that, and everything that you're doing to advocate for, those people who really could use it. So I look forward to seeing what you do. Please come back on the
Yeah,
show. We'll do like an update or whatever. And yeah,
that sounds great. Thank you, Taylor. And thank you for what you're doing. This podcast is amazing. I
thank
don't
you.
I think people oftentimes don't realize the impact that they are having. Like, people on the outside can see, but like, you never really realize what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, your podcast is amazing. And I think, especially now that you're expanding it, I think that is awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I do it for us.
Yes.
I do it for us. All right, guys. Well, we will catch y'all next time. Thank you so much for your time, energy, and space. Until then,
Bye, guys. Peace, love, and good blood sugars.
all day.
Perfect.
Super informative, right? Like, I don't know. I really enjoyed this convo with Lexie, so I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. It was really just eye-opening, just all of the things that we talked about, the relationship stuff, and trying to navigate a lot of the tools and resources that diabetics can use. And it really inspired me not only to get my own medical bracelet through Sugarless Society because they're so fashionable, but to really think about getting my own CGM. I hadn't really thought too much about keeping track of my blood sugar levels throughout the day. And, anytime that I did, it required an excessive amount of strips, so I definitely think I'm going to be talking to my doctor about getting a wearable one, even if it's just for a short period of time. It can really provide a lot of key information that can just continue to help me adjust my lifestyle to ensure that I'm on the right track to keep this diabetes in check. You know what I mean? So be sure to follow her, be sure to check her out. Again, thank you again, Lexie, for highlighting and advocating for the people of Iran who don't have insulin, especially since you know firsthand just how important it is. So until next time, guys, we'll catch you next Thursday. All the things, Instagram, follow the show. Check out the website. Website is nice and shiny and updated. I hope that you guys like it. I worked really hard on it. But anyways, until next Thursday.